On the morning of March 6, 2025, in Punta Cana, 20-year-old Sudiksha Konanki vanished under mysterious circumstances. The night before, she had spent time at a beach with a man she had met, while her friends returned to their hotel. When morning came, Sudiksha's belongings were found unattended, and she was nowhere to be found. There were no witnesses to explain her sudden disappearance, leaving behind only questions and uncertainty about what truly happened. Sudiksha, a bright and ambitious student from Chantilly, Virginia, had been pursuing a double major in biology and chemistry at the University of Pittsburgh, with hopes of becoming a doctor. She was a 20-year-old woman, born in 2004 in India, to her parents Subbarayadudu and Sridevi Konanki. She later grew up in Virginia and has been a permanent resident of the United States since 2006. In March 2025, she was a junior in college and planned a spring break trip to Punta Cana with 5 of her friends from university. They stayed at the Rio Republica Hotel on Bavaro Beach, looking forward to a fun and relaxing vacation. The evening before her disappearance, Sudiksha and her friends visited Coco Bongo, a popular nightclub at the resort. The group was in high spirits, and they enjoyed the lively atmosphere until the early hours of the morning. Around 3 a.m., surveillance footage from the hotel showed the group leaving the club. Sudiksha and her friends were seen chatting and laughing, still enjoying the night. It was then that they met 2 men, both in their early 20s, who were also guests at the resort. Among them was Joshua Steven Riibe, a 22-year-old college student from Minnesota, who struck up a conversation with Sudiksha. At about 4 a.m., Sudiksha and her friends, along with Joshua and his companion, decided to take a stroll along the beach. Hotel security cameras showed Sudiksha and Joshua walking together by 4:15 a.m., arm in arm. Sudiksha appeared to be intoxicated, holding on to Joshua and snapping a selfie as they made their way along the shore. The beach at this time was not the ideal place for a late-night walk, as red flags warned of dangerous waves and strong currents. Just a few months earlier, in January, several tourists had tragically drowned in these very waters. Despite the warnings, the group continued their beach outing. Laughter echoed through the night as the group stumbled along the sand, carefree and intoxicated. At one point, Sudiksha became ill and started throwing up, but she quickly recovered with Joshua's support. Around 4:55 a.m., the rest of the group decided to head back to the hotel, but Sudiksha and Joshua stayed behind, alone on the beach. That would be the last time anyone would see her. Hours later, by 8:55 a.m., Joshua was seen walking back to the hotel alone, with no sign of Sudiksha. Her absence wasn't immediately noticed. Her friends did not realize she was missing until later in the afternoon. They reported her missing to hotel staff, but there was a significant delay in initiating a proper search. This delay in reporting her missing and beginning the search raised concerns about the initial handling of the case. Later, the situation quickly escalated, and Dominican authorities initiated a full-scale search. The search effort included police, divers, helicopters, drones, and K-9 units, with the involvement of the US FBI, Interpol, and the Indian consulate. Despite the extensive search, no trace of Sudiksha was found. What happened to Sudiksha Konanki that night remains a mystery, and her disappearance has sparked widespread concern and a global search for answers. Sudiksha Konanki's belongings, her sarong and flip-flops, remained undisturbed on a beach chair, a stark contrast to her sudden disappearance. There were no signs of struggle, no indication of foul play, and her phone and wallet were left behind with her friends, which raised alarms. Her family noted that Sudiksha never went anywhere without her phone, making her absence even more puzzling. By March 10th, her father voiced his growing fear. He believed that if she had drowned, her body would have already been found. He began to fear the worst, that she might have been kidnapped or trafficked. As investigators focused on the events of that night, their attention turned to Joshua, the last person seen with Sudiksha. Joshua was a senior at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota and a former lifeguard, explained his version of the events. He recalled that after their friends left, he and Sudiksha had gone for a swim. They were standing in waist-deep water while chatting and sharing a kiss. Out of nowhere, they were caught off guard by a massive wave that knocked them both into the violent ocean. He described how the waves dragged them under, and during brief moments when they managed to get their heads above water, they screamed for help, but there was no one nearby to hear them. Joshua claimed that Sudiksha was growing exhausted from the fight against the waves, and as a trained lifeguard, he used one arm to keep her afloat while struggling to swim with the other. He said it took a considerable amount of time for him to get close enough to the shore, and he was solely focused on ensuring Sudiksha was still breathing, which left him barely able to catch his own breath. When they finally neared the shore, Joshua said he supported her in knee-deep water, calling out to her to make sure she was okay. But as he attempted to drag her back to the beach, he suddenly began vomiting seawater. And when he looked up, Sudiksha was gone. Joshua believed that Sudiksha must have gotten up, grabbed her things, and gone back to her room. He said he was too exhausted to search for her and collapsed on the beach. The next morning, the harsh sun and swarms of mosquitoes woke him from his sleep, and he stumbled back to the hotel alone. Surveillance footage showed him leaving the beach around 8:55 a.m., but there was no sign of Sudiksha. He went back to his hotel room, and it wasn't until the afternoon, when his friend inquired about Sudiksha's whereabouts, that he realized she was missing. In the days that followed, Joshua remained at the Riu Republica Hotel, monitored by authorities, and questioned multiple times by several agencies, including a lengthy, 6-hour interview. By March 15th, his passport was seized, preventing him from leaving the country. Meanwhile, Sudiksha's parents arrived in Punta Cana to continue the search for their daughter. Investigators from Sudiksha's hometown of Virginia also arrived to assist with the case. Joshua's parents publicly defended him, asserting that he was fully cooperating with the investigation. Some people regarded him as a hero, believing he had done everything possible to save Sudiksha in a tragic accident. However, others raised doubts about his actions. If he truly tried to help, why hadn't he searched for her when he returned to the hotel alone? What had happened in the hours before he left the beach, knowing Sudiksha was still missing? The case took another turn when new footage from Coco Bongo surfaced, showing Sudiksha at the bar before heading to the beach. In the clip, she appeared intoxicated and was seen vomiting. Joshua also seemed unsteady on his feet. But more disturbing was the presence of two men in the background, one in a white shirt and the other in black with a cap. They were behaving suspiciously, picking up cups, sniffing them, and then setting them down while staring at Sudiksha. They exchanged knowing looks and handshakes, and it appeared they signaled the bartender. After Sudiksha's friends left the bar, these two men made their way toward the beach, where Sudiksha and Joshua had been earlier. The identities of these men remained a mystery. Whether they were hotel staff, other guests, or something more sinister, no one at the hotel was providing any answers, further deepening the mystery surrounding Sudiksha's disappearance. A local woman on a TikTok video added even more fuel to the growing speculation. In it, she recounted how her friend had become dangerously intoxicated after just one drink at Coco Bongo, acting bizarrely and displaying unusual strength. She described how 3 men attempted to take her friend away, but she managed to pull her back and get her safely home. Some began to suspect that something may have been slipped into their drinks, possibly a substance like rohypnol. The signs seemed to match. Sudiksha was disoriented and unsteady, while Joshua became suddenly ill. It led many to wonder, could they have been unknowingly affected by something in their drinks that night? Soon, financial rumors began circulating online. Dominican news outlets reported that a wire transfer of either $30,000 or $60,000 was sent to Joshua on the same day. The reason behind the transfer remained unclear. Some speculated it could have been a bribe or an act of blackmail. Given that the resort was all-inclusive, with all meals and drinks already covered, the large sum seemed unusual. Joshua was a former wrestler and a land surveying student with a background in maps and terrain, and became the subject of further speculation, with some suggesting he may have concealed her whereabouts with possible assistance from others. Also, his uncle Richard disclosed that Joshua had a girlfriend back in Minnesota, where he was also studying at St. Cloud State University. Moreover, the day before Sudiksha disappeared, 2 Venmo transactions she made raised eyebrows. The first, sent at 2:54 p.m., went to an unknown user and included only a sailboat emoji as the caption. The second, at 3:38 p.m., was directed to her friend Ananya and simply read Coco Bongo, the name of the nightclub they planned to visit that evening. As speculation exploded, so did theories. Some believed Joshua wasn't telling the full truth. Others blamed the 2 men spotted at the bar. The hotel's silence only added to the suspicion. Acknowledging a dead tourist could be damaging to business. The wire transfer deepened the mystery. Was it hush money, or part of a darker scheme? Some even suggested Joshua might have panicked after she drowned and concealed the body, possibly with help. Others thought the men at the bar, perhaps even hotel staff, were involved. And a few held on to the hope that Sudiksha might still be alive. There was no evidence of foul play, yet Sudiksha remained missing without a single trace. Theories began to surface rapidly. Although the official cause of death was listed as drowning, Dominican Attorney General Jenny Berenice Reynoso acknowledged it as a possibility, though not a certainty. In January, fur tourists had drowned in the area, and their bodies had been found within 48 hours. However, by March 25, 19 days after Sudiksha's disappearance, there was still no sign of her. An investigator with experience in the Natalie Holloway case dismissed the drowning theory, noting that Sudiksha's body would likely have surfaced by now if that were the case. Sudiksha's father agreed, firmly believing that the more likely explanations were trafficking or abduction. One particularly unsettling detail stood out: a power outage at the hotel between 2 o'clock and 4 a.m. that night, forcing many guests outside. Was it just a random occurrence, or a deliberate move to distract or cover up? By March 18th, only 12 days after she went missing, Sudiksha's family, emotionally exhausted, sent a letter to Dominican police officially declaring her deceased. They agreed with the drowning theory presented by Joshua, noting no clear evidence of foul play. They expressed a need for closure and to begin the grieving process, especially for the sake of their 2 young children still at home. They also asked for Joshua to be allowed to leave the Caribbean, as they did not believe he was to blame for their daughter's disappearance. They shared that the overwhelming international media attention had only worsened their pain and made the grieving process even harder. That same day, a judge ordered Joshua's release. No charges were brought against him. While his passport had initially been held, by March 19th, he had received a replacement from the U.S. consulate. He flew back to Iowa with his father, leaving Punta Cana behind. As the days passed, the urgency in the search for Sudiksha began to fade. Drones were grounded, boats returned to shore, and the presence of authorities thinned out. Her parents returned home to Virginia, carrying only grief and unanswered questions. The mystery surrounding the 2 unidentified men at the bar, the alleged wire transfer, and the circumstances of that night remained unknown. Though Dominican police claimed the investigation was ongoing, the momentum had clearly waned. Interpol's yellow notice stayed active, a faint reminder that the case was still open, if only in name. To this day, there has been no sign of Sudiksha. Her body has never been recovered, no one has been held accountable, and the full truth remains elusive. Joshua returned home without charges. Life at the Rio Republica resort carried on, while U.S. media coverage slowed, and Dominican reports offered little clarity. However, the Dominican legal system has stated that a person can only be declared legally dead after 4 years of disappearance, and the presence of the body before a forensic doctor is essential to declare a person deceased. Therefore, Sudiksha's parents' request to declare her legally dead cannot proceed under current law. Was Sudiksha pulled into the sea by a deadly wave, as claimed, or was her drink spiked at the club? A bright student on the path to becoming a doctor vanished without a trace, leaving behind a mystery that refuses to rest. The timeline between 4:55 a.m. and 8:55 a.m., those critical hours, holds the answers. Did Joshua truly fight to save her, or is there more to his story? Many aspects of the case have been left unanswered, deepening the mystery. Sudiksha's story remains unresolved, a painful mystery that continues to haunt those left behind. This case must not be forgotten. Keeping it in the public eye is the only way to seek answers. As long as we hold on to hope, there's still a chance for finding the truth.